Dear Jewel, I left you with a few things to always hold on to. Loyalty, elusiveness, and brute force. If you remember these lessons, you will survive. If anyone can, it's you. Love you always, Dad.
Xbox One S, starting at $299.
All right, we are here at San Diego with Jim Lee and Rob Williams. We are going to talk Suicide Squad. So how excited are you guys about this?
Very excited. How excited are you?
I'm very excited as well. Yeah, it's really cool to be working on the book. It's right around the corner now, and I'm very curious how the fans will react. I think there's some stuff that has never been explored with the squad, some of the interpersonal relationships, and we've devoted a fair amount of time to that. And Rob has some really cool bits in there, so I think it's going to be a lot of fun to see their reaction to what's been created.
Yeah, and it's it's an all-action thing. It's just the first issue sort of launches with we're straight into the suicide part of the Suicide Squad. They're going on a mission that is absolutely lethal, and they're thrown into it. Jim's making it look awesome, and it's great timing as well. We're coming out with a movie, and everyone seems very pumped about that. So yeah, we think people will like it. We hope people will like it.
Now, I know back at WonderCon when it was announced, you had mentioned that you didn't see the movie yet. Has either you seen the movie or are you still trying to?
I've seen bits and pieces, so you should find Dan. I know Dan has seen the movie. Yeah. So there was times to see it, and I passed on the opportunity because I didn't want to get too much in my head, and I already was from just even looking at the trailers. I think there's a danger that you might get so excited about what's in the movie that also now the comic kind of mirrors the movie too closely, and I don't know. I won't say it's dangerous, but I think it's important for the comic book to have its own identity. If you look at our entire line, the stuff that does well when there is a movie adaptation is not the stuff that slavishly or is an adaptation of the work itself. It's the stuff that are good stories in and above themselves. And at this point, fans and readers of all media know that if you find the source work to something, it's not going to be a one-to-one, it's not going to be a one-to-one translation of what they just saw as a film. In fact, they probably would be disappointed if that were the case. They know that if they buy Game of Thrones, the book, they're going to read something different than what they've experienced on the TV show itself. And so I think it's important to kind of deliver something that is creatively different and cool and unusual and stands on its own.
Now, we saw a page from the comic, and specifically we saw Amanda Waller. In the New 52, she kind of got a makeover. Right. In the page that was released, she's looking a little closer to her pre-New 52. Anything you want to talk about that, or is that a wait and see?
Is that a pun? No. So yeah, no. I think no. I think when we did the April Fool's special with Harley Quinn, we made a conscious choice to do a kind of a pre-52 look for the character. We felt that was more representative of the iconic version of the character. But it's not a reboot of the character. I mean, it's just a weight change, so it does happen. So it underscores the diversity we seek to have in the line. I mean, it's a woman of color, a different body type, but obviously very, very powerful within the DC universe. And one of the things I tried to do visually in the first issue is kind of show that she's nicknamed the Wall for both her authority. She represents the line between good and evil, but also as a physical force. She's this wall of a person. But also, then I would draw her kind of smaller compared to her soldiers or the bodyguards that would accompany her, to show that this authority, this power, comes from her command. It comes from her personality, her presence. And so it allows us to play with a lot of different themes at once.
Now, what's it like writing a book of villains, basically, and trying to get people to read the book and basically root for the villains? Is it a different mindset to make sure they don't feel too bad rooting for the bad guys?
I don't mind. I don't feel bad about that at all, not in the slightest. No, that's part of the fun of the book, and very often villains are the most interesting characters. That's true, in all kinds of stories. Definitely in this case, they've got their frailties to the fore, and it's people's frailties usually make them interesting. If someone's just clean cut across the line. You know, it's tough to sometimes to do interesting stories with those characters. Suicide Squad doesn't seem to have any of those problems. These guys are like scumbags. Like the trailer says, the worst of the worst. But what you have to do is humanize them. Everyone's the hero in their own story, and that's a really important thing you'll see coming forward. You know, these guys, they feel put upon. They're the underdogs, and then they get put into appalling situations. You know, so I think it's easy to root for them. They get a raw deal, even though if you let them out, they'd probably carve you up. You know what I mean?
Okay, last question. Sure. Now, with such a big cast, and we can assume that Harley and Deadshot will probably get a lot of the spotlight, but how are you going to address the others? Is it going to be in the backups and make sure everyone gets equal, page time?
That's one of the interesting things about. I mean, you've done a load of team books over the years. I mean, one of the interesting things is giving everyone their moment, and trying to give it, weight and sort of. But I mean, we're doing the backup stories as well, which kind of allows us to show the background and get to the heart of the characters. So there's that. But really, you want the main story, Jim and I's main story, to sort of do that for you. That's going to be the big dramatic beats. That's going to be where people are put in peril and people are going to have to make sacrifices, and all the things are going to make people emotionally connect with the characters.
Well, the stories are broken down into a main story about 12 pages and then a backup story that will focus on individual, sort of personnel files that focus on individual squad members, about 7 or 8 pages, and that'll give Rob the opportunity to give everyone their due. But I would also say that within the main context of the story, it's not necessarily the amount of real estate you have in the story, it's what you do with the time that the camera is essentially on you. And so there's some really cool bits, I think, that are very short in nature, but really make you go like, that's a cool character. I would love to hang out with that, that character. So there's a lot of fun stuff like that.
And also working on art is Philip Tan and then Jason Fabok. Is that true?
Fabok. So Jason Fabok's doing the backup to the first issue, and I think Philip is also doing some backups because we changed the format up to accommodate the schedule and try to do something a little different with the platooning of artists. If you notice across the Rebirth line, sometimes you see multiple artists doing the same book. And then, like Wonder Woman, you see one artist doing the contemporary storyline, another artist doing the year one flashbacks in between, or every other issue. So with Suicide Squad, given the nature of the characters, the desire to see more of the background of the individual squad members, we felt that having a main story with a backup story allowed me to do the main story on that schedule and allow us to bring some really awesome superstar artists like Jason to come in and do backup stories and let them, I mean, everyone loves the squad and everyone has a favorite character of theirs, and allows them to come in and work with Rob and do something really cool that kind of shines the spotlight and gives those characters their due in the spotlight.
Okay, I lied. Last question. Was Harley? You said before Harley was your favorite to work with?
No, I did. I don't think I've ever said. Maybe I did. No, I don't think so. Maybe someone else. Maybe another Jim Lee. No, I don't have a particular favorite because in a team book you have to love all of the children equally, right? So, but what you find in you read the script, you start drawing it, and you start seeing connections, both visually and through the dialogue, and go like, hey, this character would get along with this character, or this character would find comfort with this other character, and this character would annoy the hell out of this other character, right? So that's the fun stuff, and so you kind of need them all to have that situation. If you just focus on one or two, I think it's not really a team book.
Yeah, Jim's right, but I love Captain Boomerang.
That's right.
Everything you said is absolutely right, but I love Captain Boomerang because he's the worst of a lot of them, and the worst is just the best to write sometimes, or most fun. He can say the things that no one else in the team will say, and that's kind of freeing,
Okay, so Suicide Squad Rebirth #1 in August, and then you got to get back to drawing.
Right. So the Rebirth issue is August 3rd, I believe, that Wednesday, and then Suicide Squad #1 is August 17th.
Okay, so get back to drawing.
All right, thanks. I will. I have my pages up here.
All right, make sure you guys pick that up.